Hey everybody, this is Josh Cook, aka Seizures Palace, and we are here today doing Song of Week number 12. That's exciting for me because next week at 13, that's a quarter of the 52 song goal that I'm hoping to strive towards, a year of weekly songs. So anyway, we're trucking along. We're at the dozen mark at this point. I'm going to be showing you guys an indie rock song today that I worked on, which was part of 3 songs that I did as part of an audition to do some music for a documentary. It came down to myself and one other guy who had more experience actually in the film industry, had a lot of credits on different docs and stuff like that. So he beat me out. Oh well, I got some cool songs out of it, and I want to show you guys one of them that's my favorite out of the 3. So here we go. It doesn't actually have a name. It's just called Indie Rock for Matt. Let's get into it. Let's listen to it, and I'll break it down from there. Part here with some shots. Okay, and then there's a build up. And then some fun toms come in. So you get the idea. That's the general style. You might know which band I'm trying to kind of emulate if you've ever heard any Old Muse. I love those guys. They're a fantastic band. Admittedly, I haven't checked out their latest 2 albums. I just I've always been stuck on their first 3 or 4. Absolution, what is it? Origin of Symmetry, Showbiz. Those 3 are fantastic. I can't say enough about those, but I also can't say very much about the new ones. I've heard some good songs, but I need to get into that stuff. Anyway, this is modeled after Old Muse to an extent. It's funny. It's like it came across as Old Muse for 2 reasons. One, it's harmonic minor. I love harmonic minor, so that wasn't really intended to be taken from Muse necessarily. It just kind of came across that way. And also this lead sound that I have with a lot of tremolo kind of resembles a little bit of Matthew Bellamy's lead tone, but it's a synth. So here's the sound I'm talking about. Good. That's kind of a fun sound. All right, let's get into it. So I have some drums, and here's the EQ that I've done on them. Mostly just notching out little areas, a little bit of bass drum presence in around this area. I didn't want too much click up top. This was just a little bit more sort of to bring the bass drum forward a little bit. And then there's also some sub-frequencies in the bass that I wanted to lift up a bit because between the bass and the kick, there wasn't much happening there, so it needed a little bit of a boost. If I open up Contact, you can see I was using Studio Drummer, the Garage kit. I've done some EQing on the kick and snare, mostly just brightening up the high end, and I think a little bit of transient shaping, and I also brought up these the levels a little bit of the kick and the snare. So nothing too intense. It's more about the part that you play. I'm 50-50 when it comes to playing parts. I'm really used to old Yamaha keyboards, like the DJX is one model that comes to mind. That was one that I owned for years, but they all kind of had the same setup where C was the kick, D is the snare, and F sharp is the hi-hat. So that sort of idea, like basic rock drumming was something that I did a lot as a kid. So sometimes I play it out just by hand. I would go with like an MPC or machine or something like that, but I'm a keyboardist. I'm really used to playing keys. So for me, playing drums on keys is not uncomfortable and not too unfamiliar. Because I've also played drums in a ska reggae band and in rock bands in the past, just kind of not as the lead drummer of a rock band or anything. I would just play after rock band practice, but I did drum in a ska reggae band that now does swing. You should check them out. They're called the Ska Doos. I'll leave a little link over It's always that way. There we go. It's this way now. All right. Yeah, so check them out. They're pretty fantastic. So sometimes I program this stuff out. I can't remember what I did with this stuff because all 3 songs I did a little differently. I think I played just kind of a bass drum and snare pattern and then a hi-hat afterwards and layered it. And you can do that using this little plus button up here. If you make sure that it's turned on, then you have MIDI arrangement overdub enabled, and then you're able to add layers over top, which is great for things like drums if you're not used to the dexterity involved for all the different parts, or for orchestral stuff. Because from what I understand, one of the more accepted approaches to writing string arrangements and horn arrangements is to do each horn part individually, so you're imagining yourself playing that part. It's a little different if you have like 12 first trumpets that are all doing the same thing. I don't know why you would ever do that in a song, but then you can kind of cheat a little bit. But playing keyboard style kind of stands out sometimes to a seasoned ear, so to speak. So anyway, I'm pretty sure that's what I did, was just came up with the bass drum snare pattern, overlap some hi-hats. I may have even just sort of added them in just by pencil, variated their velocities just a little bit, and then I added in the odd crash, and the tom part was kind of fun. That was this part here. This was definitely played. It was a feel thing. You can see tons of different velocity shades here going on, and actually the toms are something that I think I want to add a little bit more low end to kind of bring out the beefiness of that section. That's something I'll probably do before I post this up. So where are those? Yeah, just... you get the idea. Okay, so added in some toms. That was the bulk of the drum part. I didn't really do anything too fancy past that. There's a little bit of bus compression. Sometimes it's nice before you squash it. I'm not going to show you exactly how I squash this because I don't want you to do it the exact same way. Experiment with it. But you do want to have your attack and release pretty slow to make sure that some transients are popping through and squashing everything else. But one cool thing that I picked up is to accent some of the main spots of where the drums are already present in the mix, and then it helps sort of have those areas of the EQ pop out a little bit more when you combine it with parallel compression. That said, there's also a little bit of medium reverb, and then I just used Ableton's reverb for this, and doesn't look like there's anything too fancy going on. A huge decay time, like 8 seconds. It was just the sound I was going for, but I really lightly blended it in the background, and I think there's already some reverb in Studio Drummer as well too. So together I just liked the way it kind of gave a bit more of a stadium feel to the kit. Over to the bass. Bass is also done on Contact. I have a high-pass filter, low-cut filter, set to basically 55 hertz with a little bit of a resonance bump, which leaves a little bit more room in the low end for some bass, but I'm pretty sure a lot of that's swept out. I don't want like dance club sub information happening. I just wanted the bass to be a little bit tighter up on the high end of the sub and not so demanding in the mix, so I could drive the volume up a little bit more. Some presence of the finger action and string sound, and a little bit of presence as well up around 2. So this is more just like, again, like the finger action, that kind of stuff. This is bringing out some of the upper harmonics up around 2 kilohertz. That's a trick I use a lot in EDM that translated well over to this. Some good areas to search around through on bass are around 800-ish hertz and 2 kilohertz. And if you find something around one of those areas, great. Don't forget subtractive EQing can be really good too. So you can also do a little strip down somewhere around 1K in between those 2 points where things are a little, I don't know what the word is, but I can show you. I'll say roomy, boxy, not boxy. I don't know, this sound. There's that ring there, right? So it's nice to take those out sometimes, but it's not showing up too much in the overall mix. A little bit of sidechain compression. Ooh, this was a cool trick, I thought. So it's sidechain to the drums, but if you watch, it's going crazy right now. There's so much sidechain action happening. If I turn on this EQ, now it's just being triggered by the kick. So if we actually turn on the little headphones here to hear the sidechain signal going through, here's what we have with and without the EQ. So here's without the EQ. This is a bad section just because there's so much toms going on. I'm going to pick a regular section to show you. you can see it's being triggered by the kick and the snare. If I turn on the EQ, there's not much of the snare that's poking through, and I could even mess with the ratio a little bit, or rather the threshold, to try to get rid of some of the snare hits. But a little bit of, because there is some low end on the snare, a little bit of side chaining there couldn't hurt. But the majority of the sidechain compression that I want to happen is triggered from the bass drum. So by turning on the EQ, I could filter out some of that high information that is causing the compressor to sidechain compress. And instead you just get the low subby part of the kick, and now it's as though the bass drum is separated. You can actually separate all the different individual drum layers. You can use external instruments in Ableton and be able to individually mess around with the bass drum, snare, and all that kind of stuff. Straight out of Studio Drummer, it sounds pretty darn great, so I wasn't too worried about doing that. I did want to have some control of my sidechain compression, and that's how I did that. So something worth trying, and make sure to turn off your little headphones afterwards. Onto distorted guitar. There's actually no guitar in this track. There's a sample of bass guitar. I shouldn't say bass guitar isn't a guitar. I just call it a bass. There's no standard electric guitar in this. It's all synths. So if we listen to this distorted guitar, now, what makes this guitar part interesting, in my opinion, is that the main riff is phrased in fives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That kind of idea. And notice there was a group of 4, because at some point you need to kind of round it all up and make sure that you land back on beat 1 again. You don't have to, but it's for our average listener a little more appealing. So if you listen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 at the end. But anyway, you get the idea. And then that part, I think, is always the same for the most part. This part here is up an octave, and it has this fun run. Let's see what's going on with that run. It's not triplets or anything fancy. It's just, actually it is triplets. Yeah, it's triplets. Yay. So triplet, 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 triplet on 16th note triplets, and yeah, it's just running a dominant 7th arpeggio. So A, G, E, G, A, C sharp, A. It kind of runs up the chord from there. So a nice little, if you guys know harmony, like 1, 5, 1, it's a nice run on the 5 chord leading right into the 1 chord, the minor 1. And then here we have the melody. And notice not only the octaves are sitting in different spots, but if I go through, you can see that there's quite a bit of low boost in the low mids, and also a bit of presence boost on this distorted guitar. And then for the lead, there's some more like mids, or it's kind of verging mid-lows and mids. And I've swept out some, probably some rings from around 5-ish kilohertz, and did a general sweep at 1.8, and I think that was to make either the bass or another instrument stick out a little bit more. Again, subtractive EQ, it's a good thing. And the compressor only turns on at times. Why did I do that again? That's for, when does it turn on? Let's find out. It was probably just the gel in with the mixer. There's probably some conflict of crossing frequencies, so that's probably why that ended up happening. And then there's a pad. It's kind of fun. So giving some full harmony in the background, complemented with some contact strings. And the pad, I didn't do too much EQing, it's mostly filters. And then for the strings, there's some mid boost and a little bit of compression. So that's all the parts. The chord progressions aren't anything too fancy. They just kind of climb up. I think it's D minor, I'm not even too sure. It is. So just kind of taking chords and constantly moving up 1 or 2 notes so things constantly move up. It reminds me of the Chopin prelude in E minor, where he's constantly moving just single notes down slowly to create new harmony that way. So guess a bit of a Chopin influence on this one too. So that's all I wanted to talk about today for this track. Please do feel free to check out the full track within the description below. One more time, my name is Josh Cook, aka Seizures Palace. I really hope that you guys picked up at least one cool trick that you can use in your own productions. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and please, you stay glassy, sand.